Hello and welcome to the New York Empire podcast. I'm Dan Hilton and I have Ben Jagt and Jack Williams with me because the 2022 season will be here before we know it. How's it going, guys?
It's going really well. Happy to be talking to you again, Dan.
Yeah, it's good over here.
Yeah, everybody's on the East Coast, Jack in North Carolina, Ben, of course, in the New York area. But why Jack and Ben do we start the season, you ask? Well, they are the two first signings of the new season. So I figured we'd talk to the two all AUDL first teamers from a season ago. And Jack, you were the first signing for the Empire for the 2022 season. So I want to start with you and ask what went into your decision to coming back to the Empire for 3 more seasons?
I think a lot of things. I think one, we got unfinished business from last season. So yeah, what up, Ryan?
We'll be talking about Ryan Osgar later, but we'll get to Ryan in a second.
But yeah, that's another reason. Just got a lot of friends up there in New York. Don't want to leave them, and it's kind of a good situation I got going on right now, where I get to play pro up in New York and then club back down in North Carolina, and also just the ownership of the Empire is unmatched. So it was a pretty easy decision, and was able to work through the logistics of how it would work, and I'm really glad I did it.
Yeah, 3 seasons puts you on par with AJ Merriman, that deal that he signed. So those numbers getting a little bit bigger. And then Ben, a similar answer for you about re-upping with the Empire again.
Similar question or answer?
Similar question, similar answer. I mean, obviously you're not coming back from North Carolina, so you're New York based, of course.
Yeah. I'm just excited to play this year. I went back home. Playing with Empire gives me a little flexibility for what I'm doing. If I'm playing in the AUDL, I'm not really going to be playing anywhere else. So playing with Empire was a natural landing spot again. I have made a whole bunch of friends out here. It's coming up on 5 years that I'll be living out here. I'm just excited to start playing again.
How many years would get you for, Benny?
I only signed a 1 year this year, but I had a little bit of uncertainty going on, so I was like, we'll figure out what's it going to look like. But
you got that LeBron contract, just 1 year at a time.
Yeah,
getting that supermax. I love it.
Yeah, well, we'll have to talk to Ben's agency another day, because I do want to focus on who the Empire did sign, Ben, and that is a 2-time MVP for another season, joining just Goose Helton and Bo Kittredge. Do you think about, with that second MVP, potentially a third one someday down the road, do you think about your playing legacy? And I know you and I have talked about this before, about how Kevin Durant, every interview he does, he goes, I don't care about legacy. It comes down to the trophies and stuff. But what do you think that first 3-time MVP would mean for you if you're able to win it? Maybe not even just this year, but this year or a future season.
That would be pretty cool. Goose is a phenomenal player. Bo is a phenomenal player. That'd be an honor. But again, I'm going to sound like a broken record. It's like all about the teammates. Like Jack didn't get as much recognition as he should have last year, where he was literally the cog that was making the whole Empire watch work. And we ended up working like a well-oiled machine at the end of the year, with exception of the championship game, losing by, not too many points. It's all about the team. Like Ryan's throwing me goals, Jack's throwing me goals, Elliot's keeping the disc alive, John Lithio's moving it, Matt Stevens the bailout, our defense is crushing. Like it really isn't me. But I mean, it would be cool.
Yeah.
If it were to happen, to be like, yeah, that'd be awesome. But whatever, I'd rather win a championship any day of the week.
Well, I assume you would be that humble. So, Jack, I'm actually going to ask you about Jagt with a similar question, saying the last 3 seasons now for your friend Ben here, assists, goals, and blocks, it was 51, 41, 12, 54, 54, 13, 47, 52, 17. Those just sound like numbers. It's hard to conceptualize when you look at the other averages for other players around the league when you're talking about 10 or 12, 8, and 2, right? It's a different level number-wise. But do you think, as far as the end of the season, when voters could be looking for a new narrative about their MVP votes, what do you think it'll take for the voters to choose your teammate in Ben for a third MVP?
Yeah, I think it probably gets harder every single year. We see it in like NBA MVP voting, that people get kind of bored with dominance. You could have made an argument that LeBron should have won, 10 MVPs by now. So I think every year it gets a little bit harder. But I mean, I don't know. It feels like you get down to the end of the season and Benny's leading in like literally every single category, and you can't really deny the greatness there. And I think I think people will try to downplay what Benny does a little bit. Just like but I don't know. You look at the stats, you really can't deny it. I think he doesn't get enough credit for how well-rounded he is as a player. He's not just like scoring goals. He's getting a lot of touches. He's moving the disc really well. He's an incredible defender. I think it doesn't really matter where you put him on the field. He's gonna have a great effect on the game. And so, I would not be surprised at all if it's a 3-time champ. I mean, he does it with ease.
Yeah. Well, you guys won't necessarily, of course, you say it is about the team, and you guys won't be doing it alone, because one of the reasons we're doing this pod is for those listening before the tryout. That's in Norwalk, Connecticut on February 5th, 8 to 11 p.m. at Sono Fieldhouse. So I know you guys aren't the LeBron shadow GMs of the Empire. Just want to throw that out there. You guys aren't the main decision makers. You might have a little word or two when you see something, but what do you think the Empire brass will be looking for this season at that tryout?
Ooh, that's a good question. You want to go first, Shaq? Ryan and I were just talking about it today, so I'll let you go and then I'll.
Yeah, I think we could really use a couple more defensive stalwarts on the deal. Our D line did a great job, but I think our defense is really good at playing team defense. And I think I look at a person like Cam Warner. I have no idea what if there's been any talks with him going on, but a player like that who can just really like lock down and help Jeff lock down like some of the best athletes in the game, and kind of just take our defense to the next level. And I also have high hopes. I have no idea what's going on in the talks, but high hopes that we can get another handler to help Elliot kind of move the disc a little bit, and maybe bring Harper Garvey back. Miss that guy. So yeah, I think we got good offensive core and good smart defenders. But yeah, if I were to look for two things, it'd be just like a defensive stopper and another really guy that's talented with the disc.
I mean, so I just want to throw in there, of course, I have to add the disclaimers. I have to be the adult in the room and saying that the two names that Jack said, Cam Warner was with Boston last year. He joined halfway through, and he's a Boston player until further notice. And we don't know anything, as well as Harper Garvey, former Empire player. He's still a former Empire player, unless he ever signed on the dotted line again. So I just want to throw that out there. Jack has
the tampering rules all over, though, right? We can say whatever we want.
Right. So yeah, Jack does not make any decisions. And then Ben, yeah, for you, as far as at that tryout, of course, if any of those kind of players, those AUDL veteran players show up to that tryout, sure. But as far as other players that you guys might not even know about, what do you think the Empire brass is going to be looking for?
Yeah, so Ryan and I were talking about it today and thinking kind of a refocusing on hard man defense. A lot of our defenders are getting older, and that definitely comes with an increased field awareness and understanding of where you should be. But sometimes that can go to your head. And we saw with DC last year, they were able to just put out, masses of these young defensive players that are just going to hound you. There's this kid that was laying out on Ryan every single point, comes up with bloody forearms. We didn't have much of that this year. So Ryan and I were thinking, maybe start growing a crop of youth that will be able to work going forward. And then similar to Jack, another handler or two would be huge for offense. We saw how dominant in both club and AUDL Saul and Gooch were for Raleigh. And those guys can just keep the disc alive forever. And with as dynamic as our downfield is on offense, if we have those sort of release valves that you can just keep it alive for 60 seconds, just the two of them, we would have a huge amount of success. And I think that would really be a big boon to our team.
Yeah, I think that's certainly going to be a narrative and talking point from, we'll say the AUDL experts at large this season when it comes to the names. I'm just going to go through 5 here, but of Jeff Babbitt, Ben Katz, Mike and Ryan Dross, and Marquez Brown Lee. If I'm not mistaken, Jeff Babbitt is the youngest of that group, and he's 27, 28. So we're already pushing those numbers where guys are certainly the core of that D is nearing not close to the twilight of their careers, of course, but they are certainly not those young guys that are going to put their bodies out every single time. It's not sustainable. And to your point too, Ben, that but whether it was BJ 2 years ago or 3 years ago with a lot of those zone schemes, and then of course Anthony Nunez and Charlie Hoppus kind of doing both, where it was man to man at times, it was zone at others, just really trying to pick and choose those moments. But you're right, with a younger, maybe some younger faces, it is certainly possible to say, hey, this is a game we've got to go man the whole way. There's no zone that's going to happen when you have the likes you mentioned against DC with Johnny Malks and Rowan and just so many unders and unders and unders and unders. But yeah, so moving back to the Empire, and I guess, Ben, I'll throw this one to you about Jack, because we did have Jack answer about you. I would say, including myself, honestly, that they're defining Jack as one of the most well-rounded players in the entire sport, somebody with very few weaknesses. So what do you think that Jack has emphasized working on the last few months when he wasn't playing competitive games, which seemed to be, of course, between club and all the other different things that he was trying to do? Every minute he was playing Ultimate, but well, I mean, what else in Jack's game do you think could be added this season?
Well, I mean, according to everyone, if you ask them who's the best player in Ultimate, all my friends from New York and elsewhere, Minnesota, wherever you may ask anyone, it's Jack's the best player. So you can just lay that to rest right now. Jack's the best player in Ultimate, defensive,
Jack,
offense,
we put the
everything.
Earmuffs? We just put the earmuffs on Jack.
No, he can hear it. He knows it.
Yeah, I mean,
his head will get a little bigger, but he's a very humble guy anyway, so that doesn't matter. So Jack is the best. I don't think maybe his game needs any improvement, but I do think adding some more talent would let him in the handler space, and just freeing up a little more of that versatility that Jack has would really allow him to shine more. Last year he ended up basically being our third handler or second handler with exception of a little bit, but I think it was one time all year maybe that did he ever receive a huck from Ryan, which is just a travesty, because Jack is, we saw at the end of quarters he's a cheat code, catching tons of game winners and end of quarter buzzer beaters. Jack should be going up, for it in the end zone at the end of quarters at least as much as I am, if not more. He's like so dynamic. He should be downfield more. So I think I don't think Jack has anything to work on necessarily, but I think highlighting his acumen for downfield cutting will be something that we try to focus on this year.
Yeah, I think it is interesting that you say that, because so many times in my head, thinking back to last season, it's Jack who's throwing up that end of the quarter buzzer beater for you or Jeff and Ryan, again, going to big moments when Oscar would also get those buzzer beaters. Yeah, and I had made the claim, Jack, that as far as we've been having this AUDL video game discussion, I thought you'd be the highest overall rated player just because of your, between throwing and catching and defense and all these things. But speaking of Oscar, I know a little birdie told me, and we've seen him on the camera, that he might be listening. So we do have to compliment him. We have to talk about him, Ben. And I want to talk about your guy, Ryan Osgar. 77 assists last year, first in the entire league, 37 goals, 384 completions. That's 94%, 4,279 receiving yards, 3,084 throwing yards, and that is a combined top in the league, and then 283 points played. How does he possibly follow that up in year two?
Again, I think you get a little bit of talent in the handler space and it would open it all up. I don't know, hopefully that actually ends up being true, but Ryan is the best thrower in the league, I think, and probably the best hybrid undercutter there is. So if Ryan has the disc in his hands, I would not be surprised to see him top those numbers this year.
Well, yeah, let me ask you more specifically, Jack. Last season, he had the highest scoring rate per point of anybody in the league, 43.3% of the Empire's goals he has scored or assisted. And the next 9 in the top 10 start at 34%. So there's 6% difference between him and the number 2 in the entire league as far as being a part of their team's goals and assists, we should say, combined. And so, Jack, asking you, you're the one kind of the architect who brought in some new changes to that offense this season. And as much as you want to try to bring in those changes, the appearance of Ryan Osgar obviously changed everything. So how did you meld what you were trying to do offensively with some of the changes this season with a player that wound up being other than yourself, like the catalyst for so much of what the Empire was trying to do offensively?
Yeah, I don't want to give myself too much credit for being an architect. Ryan came in, I remember the first practice that Ryan played. I think he threw like the first 8 goals, and I think a lot of people were looking into it like, wow, like this kid makes it look real easy. It's like this is fun to watch. So it wasn't like I was, plugging him in the right spot, and I don't want to give myself any credit for his success. You put the disc in his hands, and again, like Benny said, he's an incredible undercutter. If you put the disc in his hands, I mean, good things are going to happen. There's no doubt about that. I completely agree with Benny. He's the best thrower in the world. He's got a knack for just making the game look incredibly easy, and make really difficult throws look incredibly easy. And so, like you said, he led second place by 6% or so, whatever that was. And so, I don't think we have to change anything. I think Ryan's just going to keep doing Ryan. Him and Benny obviously have incredible chemistry. So, I don't know if we can, up his usage much more than it already is. And I think it's, he should be getting the disc as much as he possibly can. But yeah, it's nothing to do with me. Ryan's just an incredible player.
Well, Ben, I'll go back to you to ask about one of your cutters in O-line teammate John Lithio for a second. How would you sum up his rookie year?
Exceeded expectations. he came in, and it's not often that you get a diamond in the rough. Like, Ultimate World is pretty small,
right?
So and so's coming. We want him. This person is like an all-world talent. We want him. Rarely, if ever, do you get somebody who hasn't played Elite Club Ultimate or Elite AUDL Ultimate, and you go, whoa, this guy's really good. And for the first time ever, I was like shocked at how good he was. He's an all-around athlete. I'm going to go play basketball with him tonight. I wouldn't be surprised if he drops 30 or 40 on a bunch of these guys in New York. He's a phenomenal athlete in whatever, good bowler, good ultimate player, good basketball player. He's just smooth with it. So I'm excited to take the field with him again, assuming he comes back. I think he is. I don't want to let any spoilers out.
Yeah, I mean, just to add to that, the two things, doing his podcast when I did the solo breakdown of him, because as you mentioned, it was so difficult to find his ultimate history. It was so difficult. He's again in his mid to late 20s already. So it was difficult to figure out who this guy was, where he came from. And he was also the name, again, no disrespect to any of the rookies on the team last year, but that was the name that Natcat Stevens had told me, hey, I would start Googling John Lithio because of all the new faces that you're going to see other than Ryan Osgar, who everyone knew already. There's one player in particular you should probably get into the Google machine, and John Lithio was that name, and yeah, he certainly delivered. Now talking about it's going to get a little easier, guys. We're going to go outside the Empire for a second here. The Portland Nitro, the Colorado Summit, and the Salt Lake Shred all have a few signings. Portland, we don't know exactly who, but we also have some idea of some of the players that in the Portland area that might sign up. Which of those three do you think is going to have the best first season in the AUDL? And you guys give different answers here on this. Jack, you want to go first?
Yeah, sure. Off the top of my head, I would say Portland, I would assume, as long as they are getting some of the guys from their club team, right. Portland Rhino. Portland Rhino is a semis level team at Club Nationals. They have a bunch of really good and young talent, Rafi Hayes, Leandro Marks, among others. But yeah, off the top of my head, I would say that's probably the team I would want to look out for the most. But it's definitely a different game in the ADL. I'm interested to see how I know Portland Rhino plays really creative, fun style. They have a lot of interesting looks, in terms of the offensive end. But that would be my gut of who I would assume would come out on top out of those three.
Yeah, we don't know anything about the name again, Rafi Hayes, but going back to the MOU days, the Portland Stags, Rafi Hayes was a star of that league. And certainly one of those players, as you had mentioned, Ben, that the ultimate, you generally know who is around the ultimate scene, who's been around for a while. And Rafi Hayes has been around for a while, and yet he's one of those names that's never really been an AUDL star. And you've been missing that name. I think he would be a big pickup for the league if he decides to sign with the Nitro. But Ben, what's your pick? Colorado, Salt Lake, or Portland?
I would say it's probably a toss-up for me between Portland and Denver. I think Denver will probably have a lot of veteran talent who's played in the AUDL before, and I think that counts for a lot. I think Denver is also a hotbed for a lot of good ultimate players, so I think that might translate well towards a new season, as opposed to Portland having a lot of guys who haven't really played AUDL a whole lot. But yeah, and then Utah is going to be interesting to see if they're big, big man style ultimate carries over well to the AUDL, because their club team was kind of a bunch of bruisers, and they didn't do super well at club nationals, but I wouldn't be surprised if they also make some waves out in the Western Division.
Yeah, we can say the signing for Colorado and Jay Fruit is a big, as you mentioned, experienced signing, as well as for Salt Lake. The likes of Joe Merrill coming over from DC, going back to where he went to college at BYU, as well as Jordan Kerr going back as well, Callahan winner. So yeah, I mean, Salt Lake is, I think, going to look young, but you're right. They're going to look young. They're going to look big. And you also wonder how the altitude is going to be different for away teams going to Colorado and Salt Lake, where in a sense where, yes, there's one thing to go to a club tournament where all the teams are descending upon Colorado or Salt Lake. And it's another thing to have your home field be at a place like that, where you're going to constantly be putting the other team through the ringer as far as, and breathing. And speaking of home fields, I do want to say one of the best games in AUDL history books took place at Granite Knolls Park against Atlanta in the division finals, but Joseph F. Facina Field in New Rochelle is the home field of the New York Empire. And I think the reason why we could say that it wasn't like Granite Knolls Park is because New Rochelle has been a complete fortress for the Empire, where a lot of those games, other than, the buzzer beater against DC, a lot of those games are generally over by the midway through the fourth quarter. But what do you think makes Facina Field feel like home, Jack?
Yeah, I'm not sure. I don't think I remember saying this last year. I've never lost at Facina Field. I think it definitely helps that we practice there every week, so it feels very, very familiar. I don't know if other teams practice in the same stadium that they play their home games, but yeah, I mean, we always bring out a really good crowd, and the Stevens, the ownership for the Empire, always make it a really good game time experience, an exciting place to be. We have that drum line come and create some hype for us. But yeah, there's a mix between familiarity of the complex and just our home fans. It really makes it an enjoyable place to play, and I always really look forward to the home games.
Yeah, I mean, and some of the teams that are going to be coming this year, well, actually, let me start. Some of the teams that won't be coming this year is Atlanta and Raleigh, who are no longer in the division because with the teams coming, that being Portland, Colorado, and Salt Lake out of the West. And then Canadian travel at the moment, we must say, is open up again to be in your division. So, Ben, are you at all disappointed to lose Atlanta and Raleigh? I'm assuming the answer might be no, but it's certainly they improve the division and make it a much more difficult division to play in.
I am very disappointed that they're not going to be playing. One of the reasons I love playing Ultimate is competing at the highest level, and those teams were teams that pushed us to play our best Ultimate of the year. We played Raleigh twice and had two really, really high level games against them. Well, the first one wasn't super high level, but it was a very intense game, and the second one was maybe the highest level game we'd played all year, and it didn't go our way, but that was fun. I am very bummed that we're not going to play those teams. It might give us a better chance of getting to the championship potentially, but because you don't have to go through those top level teams. But to be the best in the league, I want to test my mettle against the best in the league, and those teams are that.
Yeah, I think there will be some questions about your division in particular, with the Breeze, Boston in year 2, new look Montreal side, not to mention the historic Rush looking to rebound, plus the Outlaws and the Phoenix. What division storyline intrigues you the most heading into this year? Is it DC trying to repeat what they did last year? Is it Boston in year 2, as I said? Is it Montreal trying to follow up that Canadian Cup win, trying to see what they look like this season? Or a potential jump from one of the other three? We know that Phoenix is really trying to build something. They've been building something for a while, and you're kind of waiting on when's that moment, when's that year going to come when Phoenix is going to put it together. So what storyline from outside the Empire intrigues you the most about your division?
I would say Montreal. It'll be interesting to see how they bounce back. Were they a big fish in a small pond for the Canadian Cup, or were they actually a good team that would have competed for the championship in the United States? Who knows? And then the other one you said outside of Empire, I am really excited to keep this DC versus New York rivalry going. I was a little bummed when they were going to head to the South Division and leave us high and dry, but I'm excited that we get to keep that one going.
How about you, Jack?
Yeah, I think definitely excited for that DC that rivalry to continue. That's always been some historically great games. Another one I'd look out for is just to see, now that Boston's had 1 year under their belt in the AUDL. Boston's a city that historically has some really good ultimate talent. And so maybe having a year in kind of to figure out the rules and have the changes that the AUDL brings I'm excited to see if they're able to kind of put together something. Offensively, they've got a lot of really talented players. I think defensively they struggled a little bit, which makes sense coming onto the ADL. It's a different world playing defense in the ADL field. So yeah, Boston is definitely a team that I'll be looking out for and trying not to sleep on. I think one of our last regular season games we played against them was a nail biter. They're definitely capable of putting together a really good game.
Yep, for sure. And of course, the season is just a few months away. So we'll continue to see signings. And again, I put you guys had the hardest job being the first podcast of the season because we don't know who's on any teams right now for the Empire. We just know that I'm going to be asking questions to people and doing the games, and Ben and Jack are going to be on the field somewhere. So that's what we know about the New York Empire right now. Right. Those are the confirmed things at this point after podcast 1. But we're going to end the show now with a lightning round questions, a lot easier. It's been difficult to this point, but lightning round, actually, these might be the hardest questions. Who knows? So we're going to go back and forth. I'm going to go Jack, Ben, and then Ben, Jack for each of these. So you guys ready to go? Lightning round?
Let's do it.
Lay it on us.
All right, Jack, here we go. Win on Universe or win by 20?
Win on Universe.
All right, Ben, you can answer right after. Yeah.
Okay. I'm gonna say win on Universe. Unless it's in a championship game, then I would say I'd probably win on Universe. Yeah.
You can't beat that high.
That's true.
That's why you play.
That's
All
true.
right, Ben, starting with you, Darth Vader or Luke Skywalker?
Luke Skywalker.
I'll go Darth Vader. I don't really know Star Wars, but I'll go Darth Vader.
That's the Empire theme. All right, Jack.
Yeah.
Catching a disc on a jet ski or catching a disc on a snowmobile?
I gotta say jet ski. Snowmobile's a little scary. If you fall off on the jet ski, it's you're not gonna get hurt. On the snowmobile, I'd be a little more timid.
Yeah, the jet ski. That just whipping on the jet ski is not much beats that. I love that. That was so fun.
You got that sport mode on the jet ski. You can't beat sport mode.
All right, Ben, TikTok or Instagram? And again, Connor Klein. I know your relationship with Connor Klein. He might influence this a little bit, potentially, maybe.
I would say TikTok. I haven't been on for a while because it really can gobble up too much of your time, but TikTok is definitely like a drug for me. I had to quit it.
Yeah, I mean TikTok, but it's dangerously good. It's much better than any app out there, but it's the first app where I felt like this is too good, and like I like Benny, I've considered deleting it a couple times.
Well, it's funny, Jack, you mentioned that, and between your Twitter and your Instagram, I've actually had people ask me, "Is that really Jack Williams?" And I go, maybe. I mean, it might be somebody tweeting or sending a message for him. I'm not sure, but okay. So everybody going with TikTok. All right, next one, Jack: ice cream or Italian ice?
I'll go Italian ice. Ice creams. No, I'll take a really good ice cream over anything else. But if just like regular ice cream, regular Italian ice, I go Italian ice.
Ice cream. Me and Matt Stevens and Connor Klein had a little trip down to Argentina a few years ago, one of my first years on the Empire, and we ate an outrageous amount of ice cream. The ice cream down there is phenomenal. If I could go back just for the ice cream, I would highly recommend. Good ice cream is hard to beat.
Well, the more that Matt Cat Stevens gets into his 30s, we, of course, have to make sure we've got his ice cream consumption on lock, but we'll get there in a second. Back to the field. Scuba or Thumber, Ben?
Scuba.
I think I have to say Thumber.
I think you have to say Thumber, yeah.
I think it's the only answer I can say.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, next one is pickleball or football, Jack?
I mean, in terms of playing, definitely pickleball. I think if I were to play football right now, I'd get laid out and get destroyed. In terms of watching on TV, it definitely is still football.
Yeah, I'm going to echo that. Love playing pickleball. Also love playing football. If I were to play at a high level, I think I'd have a better chance at getting to the pickleball elite tier.
All right, starting the game on D or starting the game on O, Ben?
How are you going to do this to me, Dan? I just lost a championship to Dak by starting on defense, and it really grinds my gears every time I think about that. You got to start on O. There's no reason to not start on O. Especially, well, I guess in the AUDL it doesn't really matter as much, but start on offense.
Definitely start on offense. There's some game in the Empire season, the regular season, I think against Raleigh, and I chose offense, and people were like, "Oh, why are you choosing?" I was like, "Don't you have faith? Have faith in the offense is going to score, and the pressure's immediate. If you score the first point, you have the advantage." So just make sure you score that first point and the pressure's on them. Have faith in yourself. Offense all the way.
Yeah, I wonder if Jeff Babbitt has another answer. It's unfair to ask two players of the O-line if they would start on O or start on D. Okay, Jack, board game.
There's an objective right answer too, and it's just start on offense. So it might not be fair, but there's one right answer.
Strategy doesn't matter. That's true. All right, Jack, board games or video games?
Oh, board games. I'm not good at either, but board games.
It depends on the crowd I'm with. I like them both.
Yeah, I mean, we have heard that board games was essential in bringing Ryan Osgar to the Empire. So I think the Empire might
video games were essential.
Oh, with Ryan Holmes and the like. Okay, Ben, last one, backhand or forehand?
Ooh, backhand for me.
I will go forehand. A little more dynamic with the forehand.
All right. Well, I mean, if there are no other questions, do you have any questions for each other? Because I'm all out of lightning round questions, but I think that'll wrap up another edition of the show. Thanks so much for coming on the show, guys. And again, is there anything you have to say for the Empire fans or anything to begin the 2022 season in case we don't talk to you again in preseason? Jack, go first.
No, just really looking forward to getting that revenge tour 2022.
Yeah, I'm ready to win one. I have had a kind of a crummy year ultimate wise, and I'm ready to get back out there and get this mean streak on. I'm gonna play to win.
Well, if you at home want to help the Empire conquer the world, you can test your mettle. You can try out at Norfolk, Connecticut on February the 5th, 8 to 11 p.m. at Sono Fieldhouse. You have to be fully vaccinated as well as you have to wear a mask the entire time. But again, if you're good enough and you can hang with the Empire, well, then you might be a member of the New York Empire for the 2022 season. So that is what we have next up on the docket. And then, of course, look out for the schedule coming out potentially in a few weeks, few months, but the season will likely be beginning sometime in the March, April, somewhere in that peripheral. But there's still so much news in the AUDL preseason to go over. So again, it was Ben Yacht and Jack Williams who went through the cauldron first of the new season of the New York Empire podcast. So thanks so much for joining the show, guys.
Yeah,
no problem. Thanks for having us.
And for you, the audience, we'll talk to you soon.